no fear, no doubt, trust in the Lord. Cut away, make your heart restore. Heavy load we carry long, but His light go make us strong. No more running, no disguise. Circumcise your heart, arise. No be strength, no be might. Now His hand they show the light. Step by step we hold on tight. Faith go guide us through the night. No wahala we go there. No fear, no shaker. Faith will guide us through the night. God, I'm a santal. Bine chutai como de nada. Bine sentir bebê vision. Tap okay, me please rent. No more money, no vision. Keep on a coco na qua. No more man directila. Keep show near brother man. Mabelu. Oh, Ibekele. No fear, no doubt, trust in the Lord. Cut away, make your heart restore. Heavy load we carry long, but His light go make us strong. No more running, no disguise. Circumcise your heart, arise. No be strength, no be might. Now His hand they show the light. Step by step we hold on tight. Faith go guide us through the night. No wahala we go there. No fear, no shake.
Slavery was always met with resistance. From the moment the first African was chained and transported across the Atlantic, the fight for freedom began. The enslaved didn't just pray or wait. They fought back. They rebelled, escaped, burned plantations, and turned weapons on their oppressors. Before the Underground Railroad, there were open revolts. Before escape became strategy, rebellion was war. And in America, that war left scars, martyrs, and a tradition of defiance that would never be forgotten. In the early 1600s, just decades after transatlantic slavery began, enslaved Africans were already launching revolts in the Americas. In Mexico, Gaspar Yanga led a rebellion in 1609, founding a free black settlement that resisted Spanish control for years. In Brazil, the Quilombo of Palmares, a maroon society of escaped slaves, survived nearly a century. In Jamaica, Maroons fought British colonial troops using guerrilla tactics from mountain strongholds. In Haiti, enslaved Africans overthrew their French rulers in the Haitian Revolution in 1804, creating the first Black Republic in the Western Hemisphere. These movements weren't just revolts, they were revolutions, and the fear they spread traveled north. In the colonies, rebellion followed slavery wherever it took root. In 1712 in New York City, about 25 enslaved Africans set fire to a building and attacked white colonists who responded. The uprising was crushed. 9 whites were killed and more than 20 rebels were executed. But the result was clear. The enslaved would not be silent. In response, New York passed harsh new slave codes, banning gatherings and limiting freedom of movement. One of the earliest and most violent uprisings in British North America took place in South Carolina. On September 9, 1739, a group of about 20 enslaved Africans launched a rebellion near the Stono River. They broke into a store, stole weapons, and began marching south toward Spanish Florida, where freedom had been promised to any escaped slave. As they marched, they recruited others and killed white colonists along the way. Their numbers grew to nearly 100 people. They marched under a banner, shouting, "Liberty!" And they meant it. But the rebellion was stopped by the colonial militia. Dozens of the rebels were killed in battle. Others were captured and executed. In response, South Carolina passed the Negro Act of 1740, which further restricted the movement, education, and assembly of enslaved people. The Stono Rebellion revealed 2 truths: that enslaved people were willing to die for freedom, and that the system of slavery was afraid. Beginning in the early 1700s, enslaved Africans from the American South began escaping south, not north, into Spanish Florida. There they found allies in the Seminole Nation, a group of Native American bands who had also fled U.S. expansion. The 2 groups formed a powerful alliance. Black Seminoles lived independently, grew crops, paid tribute, and were treated as community members, not property. The U.S. government viewed this alliance as dangerous. Fugitive slaves were not only surviving, they were thriving. When U.S. forces tried to forcibly remove the Seminoles, they fought back. The Second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842, became one of the longest and most expensive wars in American history. Black and Native Seminoles used guerrilla warfare, ambush tactics, and intimate knowledge of Florida's swamps to hold off over 30,000 U.S. troops. Some Seminoles were captured or removed. Others escaped to Mexico, where slavery had been abolished. Those who remained hid in the Everglades never fully conquered. This wasn't just rebellion. It was Black-led military resistance, decades long and far more successful than most Americans have been taught to remember. In 1800, a literate enslaved blacksmith named Gabriel Prosser organized a revolt in Richmond, Virginia. Inspired by biblical stories and the Haitian Revolution, Gabriel planned to seize weapons, capture the city, and force the governor to negotiate the freedom of the enslaved. The plan involved hundreds, but it was betrayed. Gabriel and more than 24 rebels were captured and executed. In response, Virginia passed even harsher laws to control the enslaved and limit gatherings. But the idea was planted. Rebellion wasn't just possible, it was coming. In January 1811, the lower Mississippi River region saw something unprecedented. On the German coast of Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans, a group of enslaved black men launched what would become the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. In terms of sheer numbers, it began on the Andre plantation, where a man named Charles de Londes, himself a mixed-race slave driver, led a coordinated uprising. He and his fellow conspirators killed the plantation owner's son, armed themselves with axes, knives, and a few guns, and began marching toward New Orleans. As they moved from plantation to plantation, more enslaved people joined them. Some estimates say their numbers grew to between 200 and 500. They weren't just fleeing, they were organizing. De Londes reportedly modeled their march after the Haitian Revolution, which had just succeeded a few years earlier. He hoped to spark a similar uprising in the American South, perhaps even declare a black republic in Louisiana. The rebels burned plantations, destroyed sugar mills, and tried to recruit more fighters along the way. But their plan was met with overwhelming force. Local militias, U.S. troops, and even plantation owners responded quickly. After 2 days, the rebellion was crushed. Over 60 rebels were killed in combat or executed after capture. Many were beheaded, and their heads were placed on spikes along the road to New Orleans as a warning to others. For years, white planters and officials downplayed the uprising to avoid panic. But in truth, the German coast uprising nearly shocked the southern slave economy into crisis. It showed that a well-organized, large-scale insurrection was possible, not just in Haiti, but on American soil. Denmark Vesey was no ordinary man. Born into slavery in the Caribbean and later brought to the United States, Vesey purchased his own freedom after winning a lottery, but he never forgot those left behind. A deeply religious man and co-founder of Charleston's Mother Emanuel AME Church, Vesey believed slavery was a sin against God. Inspired by the Bible and the Haitian Revolution, he spent years secretly organizing one of the most ambitious revolts in American history. His plan: rally thousands of enslaved people in Charleston, arm them, seize control of the city, and sail away to Haiti, where freedom reigned. But betrayal from within the group led to arrests before the uprising began. Vesey and 34 of his followers were executed, and the city responded with brutal repression, demolishing black churches, banning black education, and tightening patrols. Though his plan was never carried out, Vesey's message endured: freedom is worth everything, even death. In 1831, an enslaved preacher named Nat Turner led the most infamous slave revolt in American history. Claiming visions from God, Turner believed he was chosen to strike a blow against slavery. On August 21st, he and his followers launched a brutal 2-day rebellion across Southampton County, Virginia, killing around 60 white men, women, and children. Turner's group grew as they moved from plantation to plantation, but the rebellion was eventually suppressed. Turner was captured, tried, and hanged. In retaliation, white mobs killed over 200 black people, many of whom had no connection to the uprising. Southern lawmakers responded with sweeping restrictions on black life, banning education, religious gatherings, and any form of assembly. But Turner's legacy became legend. To the enslaved, he was a prophet. To slaveholders, a nightmare. His actions forced the nation to reckon. Once again, with the cost of slavery. After 1831, the South was on constant alert. Plantations were heavily guarded. Black churches were shut down. Laws punished not just revolt, but even the idea of revolt. But the resistance didn't die. It went underground. Escapes increased. Safe houses multiplied. Black communities, sailors, preachers, and farmers began building secret networks. Messages were passed in song, directions hidden in quilts. Allies waited in fields and back rooms. The Underground Railroad was born, not as a peaceful alternative to rebellion, but as its evolution. The war for freedom didn't stop, it just changed form. Slave rebellions in America were never isolated. They were part of a long global tradition of resistance, a line of fire stretching from the shores of West Africa to the backwoods of Virginia and the swamps of Florida. The enslaved didn't just endure, they fought, they organized. And when open revolt was no longer possible, they adapted. The legacy of rebellion didn't fade. It just moved underground, and the path to freedom was still burning. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue uncovering the hidden truths of history. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.